Good afternoon. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com, or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube at WCEG Network. I am Celeste Giordano, your show host, and I will be with you for the next hour. We're the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram at WCEG Network _talk_radio and at WCEG Network. Last but not least, our disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you, Penny Rogers and the WCEG board for giving us this platform to speak life into the community here all over the world, matter of fact. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hello. Doing well here. How about you?
Very, very well. I think all of us have been on some trips, and I know, Kricket, you've been out of the country, and Deborah's been up and down the southeastern part of the United States, and Mike and I were on vacations with our anniversary, and it's so good to see you and be back together.
It is. It is.
Absolutely. We have a great show lined up for today. Both of you have been on this show before numerous times. And before we get started, I just want to say that Sarah Poe, my co-host, is having some knee replacement surgery. So for those of you that are wondering where Sarah's at, she is going to be having knee replacement surgery on Monday, and we miss her and love her and lifting her in prayer and look forward to having her back in January. So Sarah, just you'll be a real trooper, get through with these late tax returns and go enjoy having knee replacement so you can feel better. So we appreciate that. So today we have Kricket Harrison with us, and we have Deborah Fawaz, and both of you, to me, I felt was the perfect match for the radio show today, for our for-profit show for business leaders, entrepreneurs, corporations, really anybody in the world that is wanting to speak, needing to speak, and wanting to grow their business, and the importance of image consulting and how we look and the confidence that we have in ourselves as we're speaking so we can grow our business. So what I would like, Kricket, if you would, and I will tell the story about you afterwards, and I have a great one to tell.
Oh, Lordy. You're setting me up here, girl.
It's all good. It's all good. I've had 2 weeks to think about both of y'all. And let you just share with our audience a little bit about yourself and your company, and then I will go from there if that's okay.
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Kricket Harrison. And for those of you wondering, no, it is not my given name. My real name is Kathleen. Good old Irish name, but I have been Kricket since birth. So it's always great to get that question out of the way first. And my company is Smart Success. It is built on the foundation that I believe each individual has a way that they work and thrive and perform at their best. And when they learn how to do that, they will be far more successful and happier in their lives, happier in their work. Their teams are more successful if you're in an office setting. And through that, I use speaking to grow my business. That's where our subject comes from today. And there's two sides to this. I speak on stages around the topics of leadership and engagement, especially tapping into my experience growing up in not just the travel and tourism industry, but more specifically the airline industry and what it's like with performance and teams and shift changes and all the things that go on with that. The opposite side of that is because I grew my business from speaking. I actually tripled my business in 6 months. So for those of you not sure about speaking, I want you to listen up. Because of that, I kind of got rebranded as a speaker coach, and I was hired on by a company that I had worked with, and I've trained now about 400 different business owners, entrepreneurs on how to use speaking. Everything from your 1-minute message introduction to a networking talk that converts to grow your business and be seen as the expert in your field. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about today.
Absolutely. And Kricket, I met you several years ago, and I have the utmost respect for you because, you exhilarate, confidence, you exhilarate integrity, character, but you are definitely I met you at an event, and it was a speaking event, and you just stood out in that room, and I've always looked at you as a world-class speaking coach, engagement person, who really just is a person of authenticity, and character and integrity, and you are who you are, and you tell it like it is, and that's what I love the most about you. And I just
Thank you.
appreciate you for everything that you are and what you stand for, the passion that you have, and especially in how much your passion is for helping other people.
Thank you. Thank you. I received that. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. And we have Miss Deborah Fawaz with us. And Deborah, would like for you to share a little bit with our audience about you and your company, and then I will share a story about you.
Which frightens me a lot, but that's okay.
Pinky swears.
It's nice to be with all of you again. I'm looking forward to being with both of you in person as well. Color analysis, personal styling, and makeup artistry are just some of the services offered by DD Faces, which is the company that I founded. Business women hire me to make them look and feel fabulous because many of them have figured out that they might blend in, lack a memorable style, and we'll talk more about the word memorable later. And they could actually be losing money because of that. So together, we create a lasting impression, a bold, brilliant, personal look that fits you, your personality, your brand, your lifestyle, all of those things, makes a lasting impression. And bottom line, your confidence grows, and so does your bank account, because that's why we're here.
Amen.
Absolutely, Deborah. And I met Deborah several years ago at a networking event. Matter of fact, with a mutual friend of ours, Vicki Wellburn, and our thoughts and prayers are with Vicki right now. She just lost her mother the other day. But when Deborah walked in the room, I knew right away when she said that she was an image consultant and a stylist, and I knew right away that her and I were going to be lifelong friends. And I had an image consultant, I still have, up in Canada. And I will, that experience that I had with that image consultant and the whole professional photo shoot really stuck with me when I started my consulting and coaching business, and how important it is to have, a professional stylist that works with you as well as a speaker. They go hand in hand, just like a glove. Two hands make more noise than one. You can't have the stylist and the confidence and not have the speaking ability, and vice versa. Could you both agree with me on that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they do go hand in hand. But at that networking event, and it has just been a delight, Deborah, being with you at networking events and meetings. And I've had a VIP session with you and used you for several things. Using you right now for a very important event that I'm going to in November, as shopping for some clothes for me to stand out and be memorable for somebody who's very special to me and my husband, Mike. So thank you so much for that. So anyways, I am ready to get started. But before I do, what I'd like to do is, Deborah, I was just talking with you, would you mind telling our audience the importance of what you do and how important it is with working with a speaking coach or a speaking platform, how important that is? And then I want to vice versa and give Kricket the opportunity to share the importance of why a stylist and an image consultant is important. So I would like your different perspectives of what each other does, if you would, please.
Certainly. So what is the crossover for what both of us do is no one really teaches you how to do this. No one really teaches you how to schedule a speaking event, be a speaker. Yes, you can Google all that. You can spend hours on YouTube looking at makeup videos and fashion, but there's no feedback there. There's no back and forth. There's no personalization about who you are, what's important to you, where do you go, what do you do? So unless your mom is me, and you probably didn't listen to me because, you're my child, no one teaches us that. And so That is really my joy, to work with women to just elevate their physical presence and learn what they do, what their intentions are, where they go, what they want their results to be, and then just create all that together so that when I turn them over to Kricket, she can work with the other side of that about their messaging and how they're received.
Very good. Okay, Kricket.
You know, it's such an interesting topic, and I would love to, I can't wait to read comments, because I think a lot of people are going to push back and say, wait a minute, you can wear what you want. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't be this. But people have to remember that, you know, before Steve Jobs got on stage in blue jeans and a black turtleneck, he had done his time. He had earned his spot. So when you have created a however many $1 million company, and you have done that, you know, there's a little bit, and it also depends on the industry you're in. And then the other thing I think I see is people want to dress like that. They are someplace different. They want to say, I want to be so and so on stage. I want to look like this, but it doesn't fit their personality and it doesn't fit their message. And if you're not in alignment with kind of how you look and what your message is and what you do, and people see you one way here and a different way there, and it's not aligned, it doesn't have to be identical, but it creates an automatic disconnect for your audience and the listeners in your brain. And it's a trust issue. That's why you always hear us, Deborah and I were talking about this beforehand, is photos. People, update your photos. Don't use a photo that's 5 or 10 years old. Yes, we might have all been thinner pre-COVID, but don't use a photo that's, you know, be okay with who you are. And that the importance, I think, of a stylist in this is that there's so many aspects that a speaker is working on. And having somebody else take something off their plate is fabulous, especially when you know that they're going to make you look fabulous. And I'm telling you, when you see a photo shoot, any professional or speaker in this just the bomb photo shoot, you know there was a stylist involved, because they can see you in a way that you can't see yourself. We have too much of our own inner critic to try new things. We go for the tried and true and what we're comfortable with. And part of what we're trying to do with our audiences is expand their horizons. So we have to be willing to expand our own. And it takes an outside expert to see that and to see what looks good on us and what makes us pop from the stage.
Absolutely.
Love
And
that.
I want to tell a quick story because this is so true. When I retired from my franchise and started my consulting business, um, I had a photographer and also had an image consultant, and I paired them up for people to do photo shoots. So I was new in this industry, but I realized, you know, from watching and going to major events, that if you're going to be a speaker, you're going to have clients, you need to have an image consultant, you need to have a professional photo. And so we did this, and I have never in my life had a professional photo shoot with the makeup, the hair, the whole 9 yards. And it was a life-changing experience for me. And I am so thankful and blessed that I experienced that in the very first 90 days of my business, as opposed to later, because it becomes part of what I teach with my clients, that you need to do this. Because if you've never experienced that, you have no idea what to expect, or you cannot envision the end in mind. And like you said, whether you have a fear, I had a fear of the photography, that, you know, that I have a little bit of a crooked smile, or that, you know, my teeth are not going to be bright and white and pretty. And, you know, the
Yeah.
photographer says, don't worry about this. And it's like, what do you mean don't worry about it? Every picture I've ever taken as a child, this or that, you know, yada, yada. Well, I didn't know that they had all these modern things that they could do and do this and do that. And, you know, and I remember the makeup artist, and she was putting this makeup on. I mean, I use very little makeup, natural makeup. And it's like, okay, don't make me look like a clown or nothing like this. But I understand there had to be a little bit darker, more makeup for it to show up with the pictures. And then they're styling my hair. It's like, I don't style my hair like that, don't you know? And I mean, I was just a nervous wreck. And, but then when it came time for the photo shoot and we had to send them a playlist of music, I mean, I felt like Vogue. I was this, I was that. I mean, I was really getting
Love
into
that.
it. I mean, it is priceless of what I experienced. And I can't even, you know, express that as much as I would like to. And in some of my coaching in the very beginning years, I brought photographers in and did that with them, the importance of it. But that was one of the things, Cricket, at one of the events that I met you at was a speaking event, and I was in awe. I really appreciated the fact that the person that we were attending this event, they had a little mini makeup session. And I thought, how smart is that? Because a majority of these people have never experienced it. And that's what it's about, is the experience.
Yep.
And how it elevated you and made you feel. And so, I just can't stress enough, and we're going to get started where you guys can share this, and hopefully we're going to have a lot of people that want this experience for speaking as well as for personally. And Deborah, I've been saying this to you for a little while now that we're coming out of the pandemic. We need to put together a workshop of something where we do this. So
I'm ready. And you both of you talked a lot about photography and camera and from the stage and lighting. That's the other thing that no one teaches us. The camera is a different eye than the human eye. And so you cannot anticipate, unless you've been through it before, how the camera sees you, and that's why you need to have somebody else work with you, because it's a very different experience, whether it's your Zoom camera, your, holiday pictures, whatever it is, your headshot. It's a different eyeball.
Well, and that's another good point right there, Deborah, because in this particular photo shoot up in Canada, the stylist was there. And so they were taking the picture and they said, no, that's not a good side. Take it this side. And it was like night and day when they took the picture from a different side. But the stylist saw that, but the photographer didn't see that. And so that had a lot of things. Or they look at the picture and they say, oh, well, you need to do this, or they would adjust something that you were wearing, your jewelry, whatever, to adjust it. And like you say, two hands make more noise than one when you have a stylist and you have a photographer, and there was somebody working the computer where they were, the photographer was taking and the person on the computer was doing this and that. I mean, I could go on and on about this experience because it was life-changing for me.
Well, and I'm struck listening to the two of you of what the younger generations think of this, because they grew up with cameras. They grew up with cameras, whereas for us, we had to go, God forbid, we had to go mail film off to get it back. And if we got very excited when we could finally take it to the store and they would print them for us, and then we got to throw away and not be billed for the duplicate turnout. Like, it's such a different world. So they grew up saying, oh, I'm fine on camera, and they are far more comfortable on camera, but they're so comfortable that they never learned like really how to now, some, I will say some do. We've got some really kind of young phenoms out there that I guess we'd call influencers these days. but probably from a certain age group up, we just didn't grow up being so comfortable in front of the camera and learning how to work the camera so that it becomes our friend, but more so that we're comfortable. I mean, Celeste, listening to you talk, I can just hear how much your personality came out in that photo shoot. Like, you owned it, you took it over, like, oh yeah. And I think that's what style, and when you feel really good about what you're wearing, and it just all comes together, and then that same confidence shows up on stage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I felt like a Vogue model because we had a room, and I had these whatever those racks with the different clothes, and I had to go change. And the thing of it is, the photo that I use, I won't say how many years old, but we've been talking about getting a new photo shoot.
The red jacket?
No, it wasn't the red jacket. It was the blue and white shirt. It was supposed to be a picture for my husband. I had a pair of jeans on. I said, I want to put some jeans on in this top, and I want to take this picture for my husband. And it was the one that everybody loved the most. And but I changed like 5 different times, and somebody's cuckooing the hair and doing this, and let me put a little more rouge on you and this or that. And and the music was playing, and I mean, nobody was there, and I was so out of my comfort zone. But I thoroughly it's probably what the top 5 wonders of the world for me.
I love that.
So let's get started. So Cricket, what I want to know is, why speak, and is it for everyone?
So, it's funny. I get asked that question a lot, or actually, I get the resistance a lot. So let's just start there. A lot of people say to me, I'm an introvert. This is not for me. And I'm like, no, 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 because majority of what we would deem professional, or some of you might hear the term public speakers, a lot of them are introverts, just like your comedians and your actors are introverts. So that's off the table. That's not your excuse. The thing is, we all speak. We speak about what we do every day, just like how we show up kind of represents ourselves. Yeah, some days we have good days, some days we don't. But you are speaking about your business all the time. And sometimes you don't even realize it. But you might be in a carpool line talking with other parents. You might be in the drugstore, the grocery line checking out now that we can be in person again. You might be at a cocktail party or a charity event, and inevitably someone's going to say, hey, so what do you do? Or tell me about your business. Or I hear you do this. Tell me about it. And that is your opportunity. And it's not your opportunity to sell. Let me be really clear. It is your opportunity to share about what you do. So you want to have a couple of things not memorized, but crafted that you're comfortable with, that you can talk about, that makes people go, oh, wow, they really know their stuff. Because if you start going, well, I do this, and sometimes and you look down and you kind of do, you lose the person asking, right? So I want everyone to realize that you speak about what you do every day. You have a mission and a focus in your business. I call that your platform. You have something that's important to you. You're just using a different stage. So some of you want to do what I do. You want to speak on stages, be in front of people, and in a perfect world, we get paid to speak. Or some of you do speak to sell, where you're going to speak to gain your expert status and to grow your business. But all of us are speaking every day, and all of us are in sales, and I get that. So, because I know some of my sales people are like, no, you're in sales every day, and you are, but you're not actually pitching people when they say, what do you do? That's not what they're asking. They're just trying to
Right.
get to know you, and that's how you create relationships. So in my world, absolutely, it's for everyone. Absolutely everyone needs to. That's why Toastmasters still exists to this day. It's a phenomenal group. You can take it to the extreme level and really become a pro at speaking. But at its core, it is truly there to help anyone and everyone get comfortable speaking in front of a group. And I'll go so far as to say sharing and creating relationships with a group, because I think we get caught up in this whole term of public speaking and I'm a speaker. You're just sharing information. And when we look at it as sharing and creating relationships, we take the nerves out of it. So that's a double yes for me. Everyone should be speaking.
All right. So let me ask you, I want to peel this back one more layer with
Okay.
that question right there, Cricket.
Yep.
So we have people that have, let's say we have somebody that has retired from corporate America, have started their own business,
Mhm.
and they're brand new in the business. So they're not necessarily a speaker right away, right?
Well, it depends. We don't know what they did in corporate. It depends
Well,
on what they did, okay, in corporate. The difference is that in corporate, you might be pitching a product, or you're typically giving presentations and a lot of slides and decks with updates, right?
Right.
In the speaking world, you're doing something similar, but you're doing it in more of a motivational, engaging way to build relationship, especially if you're doing something like a networking talk, or you're at a chamber or a Kiwanis or something local, where you've got 20 or 30 minutes and that's your opportunity to share about your company or what you do, but you really want to present it in terms of the problem you solve and the bigger problem. So not so nitty gritty, because you want to make sure you're reaching everybody in the room. So there is a strategy to this. I think so many people sit there and they tell me, oh, I speak all the time. But then the next question is, I need to get booked on more stages. How do I get booked? I'm like, but you just said you speak all
the
so
time.
when we come back, I bring them back to square one. It comes down to, are you really speaking about the problem that needs to be solved for that audience? So there is a strategy behind this that is not just go out and kind of talk about your company and how great you are, because that's all about you. You've got to make it about your audience. So I think at some level, everybody can use some feedback and support, whether it's from someone like me or whether it's from someone on your team or a buddy or a mastermind group you have, is understanding that when you're speaking to grow your business, it's about sharing information, sharing your expertise, letting that shine through, And in some cases, you make an offer at the end. When I do networking talks, I never make an offer. What I do is create such engagement that the people approach me afterwards and say, how can we get more? And I
Absolutely.
think that's a skill set. It takes practice. It takes a while to learn and to nail it down while you're juggling the time frame. What kind of mic do I have? Do I advance the slides? What's going on in the room? You know, it's a whole piece. So I think there's always room. And those of us that have been doing a lot, we still do this. We mastermind with each other. We say, hey, try this instead. So it's not necessarily a go it alone sport. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, and you answered that, and I should have used that word strategy in there. As I said, I was very fortunate when I went into my consulting business that I was introduced into uh, the professional headshot, the image consulting, and things of that nature, which in a lot of my workshops, that's one of my top 5 wise women, wise men, whatever you want to call it, that I say you should have a relationship with. And I never had the speaking part in there as the top 5. And as you and I have had some conversations just recently, I have learned that, you know, the importance of that you need to have somebody in your back pocket as speaking knowledge, whether it's a coach, whether it's a class, whether you've invested in this for yourself, because what starts out wrong ends up wrong. And if you start out right and you work with this in the beginning, I think it makes it a lot easier as you grow in your business. It becomes a little bit more natural. Am I right?
Well, it definitely does. And there's so much out there today that, you know, people didn't have to worry about it. And worry may not be the right word, but let's face it, once you're out there, you don't know where it's going these days, right? I mean,
Right.
we always joke that we might have done crazy stuff in high school, but it wasn't documented all over Facebook and Instagram for people to
Right.
see for the next 100 years. Um, and now your information is out there. So it's not just speaking, but what does your content look like? What does that copyright or intellectual property piece look like? If you're doing a podcast or speaking for a group and they give you a contract to sign, knowing what should and should not be in there, things like that. I've been with many groups where I refuse to sign their contract and they say, well, why? You're the only one. And I'm probably like, well, because I'm the only one that showed it to my attorney. And when and it's never malicious, I will say that. It's just they piecemealed it off of Google because they're supposed to have a contract.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's little things like that that there's just the pieces and parts. And then it comes down to, you know, how do you get good recording? How do you get good audio? What are you going to do with it? Where does it go? What's the best way to use this? What do I ask for if I'm not getting paid? What's my negotiation strategy? Things like that.
Well, and I just want to go back to something you said, and then I'm going to get to Deborah with a question is, you know, who your copywriter, your marketing, you know, a lot of people just get up there and talk and they have not invested. And you and I've had this conversation because that was another thing I was very fortunate when I started is I invested in a marketing and branding company where, you know, they took 40 years worth of my knowledge up in my brain and crafted it into, you know, several talks for me. And it's transcribed word for word. And some people just get up there and talk. So there is a difference, right?
So there's definitely a difference. I, for one, would never create your talk for you. That's just something I personally, I don't believe in. I would help you create your talk and pull out some of the gems you say and help piece it together. I mean, there's so much in there. The thing that really struck me about what you said is that I reacted to is that practice piece. We can all get up there and wing it pretty much one time, maybe two, because your adrenaline's going and you're on fire and you're excited. But like anything, the more you do something, the more routine it comes and it can get boring. On top of that, you can't maintain. You have to practice. And it does not mean memorize. So there's a big difference there, but you
Yes.
have to practice so that you know your story so well that if you're interrupted, if somebody comes up and says, okay, you were supposed to have 45 minutes, you know, Susie Q over here went over, you've got 20 minutes.
Right.
You have to know how to cut and still have your talk make sense.
Sense.
The opposite is true as well. You have to know your stuff so well that if you had 30 minutes and they say, okay, the person before you no showed, you're going to go on early and now you have an hour. You have to know how to do that. But my ultimate thing here is it's disrespectful to your audience not to practice.
Well, and I forget the
Oh, I
time,
love
how
that.
many hours you're supposed to practice per how long you're speaking?
I think it depends on how well you know your talk. I've been quoted and I have read this as well, that depending on the length of the keynote and what's involved, and this is typically more for paid speaking, but the shorter numbers apply for no fee speaking, networking talks and things. It can be as little as 10 hours, not one, but 10 hours, up to 100 hours prepping for a talk, to customize it, to do the slides, to practice, to know that if you're speaking to credit unions, they do not have employees, they have members, and to make sure you do not use the wrong word throughout your entire presentation. Little things like that that people think, oh, I can just wing it. Those little things are what make and break you as a speaker, as well as a conversion. So if you want to convert, people that wing it, they're energetic and they're effervescent and people love them and everybody goes, oh, you were great. And nobody buys, because they love your energy. But if you're all over the place, then it's like going on a squirrel chasing a nut, trying to figure out what direction you're going to get to your point. We might love your energy and you might have kind of messed up to the point that we're all giggling and laughing, which is funny and it's honest laughter and we're okay with that. But when it comes to actually, stroking a check for a high-end product, for a consulting gig, or for something else, we're going to step back subconsciously and think twice about it, because we're going to want to see some structure and some format and something that shows me that you can get me from here to there without doing the squirrel chase. So, there's a balance in there, but practice is essential.
Absolutely.
Celeste, can I respond to something she said?
Yeah, because I was getting ready to bring your question into this. That's what I was leading into.
Well, I don't know what your question is, but one of my a response to what Kricket said about if she's presenting or speaking at networking, that she doesn't actually sell in that environment. When I work with my clients and I talk with them about where do you go, what do you do, are you networking? And honestly, most of my clients are in a transition phase. So they're re-entering back into the workforce, or they're looking for a promotion, or they've just created their own business, whatever. And so, out of that transition, they realize they need some support. And so networking is something that we talk about. And I'm sure we have all been in the situation where you meet somebody and they're shoving their business card in your face, and forgive my language, they're vomiting up on you about what they do. And it's very uncomfortable. Yeah. So first of all, I don't want to spend more time with you because it's kind of just all been all about you. Second of all, I don't have any curiosity about you. And so what Kricket just talked about, when she finishes speaking and people are clamoring to her to find out more, that's something that I teach my clients is leave people curious. Don't tell everything when you first meet them.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Very good. So my question to you, Deborah, is, so you have your talk ready, but what else do you need to consider before you speak?
Well, I will tell you that I went to a conference and Kricket was a speaker there, which is where I met her many years ago. And I was very honestly enamored with not just her knowledge and the things she said, and think about this and think about this, because I was rather new in my business, but I had never been, I had given, my 30-second promotional, 60-second, whatever, but I had never actually been on the stage. And, the stage isn't necessarily at the Fox Theater. The stage is when you're featured somewhere and you have the floor. So that when we talk about the stage, that's part of it. Oh my gosh, the train just left the station. What was your question?
So you have your talk ready, but what else do you need to
Yes. So it was about the stage. So if you're going to be in person, you need to find out about the venue. And, this could be a 3-hour conversation. Is there a stage? Is there a ramp? Are there stairs? Are you sitting on a bar stool? Is there a podium? Are you being recorded? Is there a microphone? It goes on and on and on, because you need to know if your face is on a 20-foot screen there are some maybe grooming things that we need to deal with before you get up there that you wouldn't expect looking in your bathroom mirror.
Jumbotrons are frightening these days.
Yes,
They
jumbotrons
are.
are frightening. And, that even goes down to like, are your legs exposed? Are you wearing tights? Are you wearing boots? It goes on and on. Are people sitting below you? I can't tell you how many times I've been at a conference where the stage is right here and I'm almost looking up your dress, right? And you need to be aware of that. Or if you're a petite person and you have to climb up on a bar stool, let's not wear a dress, maybe. I mean, there's all those little things that you just wouldn't know if somebody didn't have this conversation with you.
My daughter is 5 feet tall, and I'm going to tell her to watch how she climbs on a bar stool now.
But, honestly, that whole thing about 7 seconds to impress, it's real. There's a bajillion psychological studies about the brain and first impressions that before I can even think to myself, I love that color on Kricket, in the first few seconds that her image has popped on the screen, my subconscious or unconscious, whatever you want to call it, has made a judgment. It doesn't matter how unjudgy I want to be, how much grace I have for other people. Our brain works scientifically in a certain way. And so if you're going to spend money to hire a speaking coach and hire a business coach and get booked somewhere and speak, you got to know what's happening in the first 7 seconds, where you are and where are you? Where is your audience? What does that all look like?
Well, absolutely. And I'd love for Kricket to chime in on this is, your appearance and how you look and what you wear and, what is the function you're going to, and are you going to, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there. You're going to an event in Nashville, but you're wearing something like you're in Disneyland or something, I mean, you've got to dress for the occasion and for the audience. Is that true, Kricket?
Yeah, you have to be able to, and this is why knowing who you are and your style is so crucially important so that you can tweak it. Now, I'm from Texas. I can rock a pair of blue jeans and cowboy boots all day long and be on stage and be fine with it. But that's also part of my personality. But the flip side of that is I can be, in a very nice suit or dress and high heels. But that doesn't mean that if I'm going to go speak in Nashville per se, that I'm going to go deck out in country, right? I still got to be true to whatever my message. And especially if I have been hired to speak, I am the professional in the space. This is my job if I have been hired to speak. And it's not a comedy act. Now, some people are comedians and they can do this, and that's fine. But for me, it's going to be a blend of, I always say, the business to where it fits how you look and show up. Again, if you show up looking totally different than social media, people are going to have a disconnect. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to know who's in the audience. If the audience is all, blue jeans and cowboy boots, then you might wear, black slacks and something. You might wear a dress, but you're not going to wear like anything cocktail dressy looking, super fancy or super high and tight suit, right? You're going to blend where you are. Now, I know some speakers who have their own kind of look, and it's really, meant. Can we just say, guys, you get away with so much easier than we do right now. Just a moment of silence for all that we have to go through. Should you have to wear pantyhose ever, like constantly? That's just a whole nother conversation. Right. But they can wear jeans. And what I laugh about so much is because then they worry about if there's a crease in their jeans and their shoes. And they've got some cool shoes now, but they'll wear, a t-shirt and a blazer and they look fabulous. We can't always get away with that, but we can wear our version of that. So it is important to know your audience. The other thing that Deborah made me think of that is so important when it comes to picking out your clothes and working with someone is that backdrop color. I have seen everybody loves blue. Royal blue is the universal color on everyone, every skin tone. Everyone can wear it. You will see it everywhere. And admittedly, I own several dresses in the blue shades. However, I watched a woman speak. Well, I tried to watch a woman speak, and this had nothing to do with her content and her message. but the background, she was in royal blue, which is typically gorgeous. You could see her, but she had very light white blonde hair, and the backdrop was a blue with almost like a sun right here, and her head disappeared.
I believe it.
Her head disappeared. It was nothing, it's no fault of her own. It was truly
Right.
just coloring. She almost should have stood off center because her light hair was in front. Now, people can wear yellow on stage. There's no, and she wasn't in yellow, but they can. But again, it's what's the backdrop, and then knowing how to play off of it. That if I'm really lightheaded, well, light hair, I should say, not lightheaded, and I've got this sun behind me, I might have to shift over, right? And the thing is, in her videos, you can see, it's like you see this blue dress, and it's like she's the little headless dress bopping around on stage. And that, again, I'm going to flip this back to Deborah because we haven't really talked as much about makeup. Now,
Right.
Celeste, you touched on makeup, ladies' lips. Even I'm looking now, and I'm like, I feel like if you looked at me in person, my lips are pretty darn dark. But from where I sit and see on camera, they don't look as dark. You have to have a mouth and eyes. You
So
have to.
I used to be a fitness instructor, and I took some community courses in that after I was, like teaching in the gym with teachers after school. And then I thought, oh, I might need to up level this a little. And in the very first course I took, and this is my memory, the very first thing she said to us is, I know this seems counterintuitive, but when you go to the gym to teach class, you need to put dark lipstick on. And we're like, lipstick? We're at the gym. She's like, there's noise, there's music, there's movement, and here's where the instructions are coming from, and people need to focus on your mouth. And I have never forgotten that. I incorporated into my business, into calls with people about Zoom. This is a camera, this is lighting right here. It's important. I love ivory and pearls. I wear that a lot. Never when I'm filming from my office, because I become that talking head because everything else fades into the background. So yes, eyebrows, cheeks, and lips. It gives you a geometric shape, and people need to focus right here, not on your flowy red dress, not on your fabulous tan calves. Here's where your message is coming from.
Well, and to that, let's just clarify really quickly, not the fake Zoom lips. We're talking real lipstick. Because I've had people say, oh, well, I just go in and do the Zoom thing. And I'm like, yeah, not so much.
No.
Let's just put real lipstick on. So
Right.
there's no glitch and you move and the lips stay here,
When I do makeup for people for photography, I warn them, if they're a first time client, when you go out in the car and you pull down what's that called? The mirror.
Visor.
Thank you. The visor mirror, you're going to be like, what did she do to me? Yeah, go ahead, wipe some off before you go to the grocery store. But the camera, as I said before, sees color and light and shadows and all of that completely different than the human eye. And if you don't account for that, you're just going to be kind of blah, and you're going to blend in, and people aren't going to focus where they need to focus.
Right.
So, I mean, we've talked a lot about how all this goes hand in hand because, somebody like myself that didn't know what I didn't know, but I was fortunate to be in a group of people that had that education and knowledge. So I started out right with that and understanding it. But some people just don't understand that. That's why it's so important. Deborah, I know that you do some promotional before the pandemic, you had in-person classes that taught people how to do makeup and eyebrows and eyes and things of this nature. I think you did some instructions online and Zoom where you gave some education. So for our audience that's listening, there's things out there that you can educate yourself, but I highly encourage that we got two of the most greatest masters right here. And Deborah, would you tell the audience how people can get a hold of you? We still have like 20 minutes to go, but where they can go to you and your website, because I'm sure you have some of that information on there. And then I'm going to have Kricket share a little bit too.
Sure, absolutely. So on my website, I have the services listed that I offer, but above and beyond that, if there's something that you need specifically that you don't really see listed there, just reach out to me. So it's ddfacesbydeborah.com, and all my contact information is there. It's also in the chat, and I would just love to have a conversation with you about what are you looking for? Are you maybe confused about something, or what is something you'd like to learn, whether it's about what colors look best on you. Color is very important, whether you're on stage or online speaking. We talked about that a little, quite frankly, in the warm-up before we started the radio show. I had a navy blue blazer on, and this green shirt has navy blue dots in it. And I like Kelly green. Kricket has to love Kelly green.
I love green.
Kelly green and navy blue. And I said to these two women, what color is my blazer? And they said black. And I ripped it off because black is harsh on camera. And I didn't. So to me, that looked good together, but the camera saw it as black, and I didn't want to be perceived that way. So we can talk about what colors say. There's a whole psychological thing behind colors and what colors you should or maybe should not wear when you are the presenter or you're networking and you're giving your promotional, again, I was an educator for 34 years and started out as a psychologist and changed my mind. But I've always been interested in that and how the brain works. And there's such a strong correlation between speaking and how people hear you and how people perceive you and your look and your color in your first 7 seconds, and then how you're received by your audience. It all works together. So I am really interested in that. I read a lot about it and I teach others because, again, it is not something that typically we just pick up on our own.
Absolutely. And Kricket, would you tell our audience a little bit about you and your website or where you'd like to direct people, please?
Sure. Most of my work right now is somewhat independent, meaning individual, because you're all in different places. And while group calls and things are fantastic, when you're totally in a different end of your business, it's not as useful, although we are putting some things in the works. I will tell you, I'm celebrating my 20th year in business this month, so I'm excited for that. And kind of have some things in the works that will probably be announced a little bit later when I get dates finalized. Honestly, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. I have a website, but it's just as easy to catch me on Facebook. My maiden name is in there. So Kricket Cody Harrison, it's Kricket with a K. And LinkedIn is Kricket Harrison. And I also have a free Facebook group where I go in and talk to my group. And I haven't done it in a while, but we're launching again Kricket Live on Air, which is a live Q&A. It'll be done once a month. And that's where I give you advice, insights, and resources. And I wish I could tell you I made that up, but it's from a networking book, and the name of the guy escapes me right now, but I believe in giving credit where credit is due. And you can email me info@smartsuccessinc.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kricket. So what if our audience or somebody listening to this doesn't want to be a speaker on stage?
Oh, well, like I said, they're speaking every day and they just need to be comfortable. That's where sometimes starting out at a Toastmasters might be more beneficial, because if you're in an event and somebody says, oh, hey, we've got a few minutes, why don't you introduce yourself to the group? I know I've been down at the Buckhead Club here in Atlanta, and, people just kind of like there's an impromptu networking session. You want to be prepared and you don't want to be caught off guard. I've been at a networking event where in the South, we might say, bless her heart, she was so nervous. And when somebody's so nervous, you hurt for them, right? Your heart aches for them. But she had been rubbing her legs, like kind of scratching her legs. And this girl had some fingernails, this lady, I should say. And as she stood up and she had a dress on her thighs, she had nail marks going up her thighs. And I never want anybody to be that uncomfortable or that nervous. All it is sharing and creating relationships. I want to change the stigma around public speaking being such a scary thing, because you know what, you're just sharing information, and those that need it will accept it, and those that don't are not your clients or your people anyway. So it's all good, but you want to learn how to talk about what you do in a way that's not about you, that's about the problem you solve for the audience you're in front of or for the people they know.
I
Very
think
good.
that's so important, Cricket. And most of us independently cannot craft that 30 or 60 or 2 minute, whatever, talk about ourselves without some support from someone else and some suggestions about, oh yeah, you need to say that, but have you thought about saying it this way? And working with somebody to create that message. I found that incredibly challenging at the beginning because I think a lot of us, when somebody says, what do you do? We talk about how we do it, and they're not that interested. That's not who we are.
The how is your second. It's your cup of coffee. It's your let's meet to talk later or discuss this further.
Absolutely. One last question for you, Cricket, before I go over to Deborah. What are your top 3 tips when speaking about your business?
Well, so some of them I've really already shared, and Deborah just hit on one of them, and that is to make sure you focus on the problem you solve. You know, Celeste, you asked me earlier about somebody coming out of corporate that's maybe now they've taken retirement or whatever, and now they're going to go on their own. This is where I see that introduction become so important, is because they're not sure, and it's perfectly okay to say, hey, just retired, starting a brand new gig, still figuring it out. You know, I'm just excited to be here and mingle and meet and see what other people do. That's fine. You don't have to have it all solved. That is better than, well, my name is Kathleen and I just retired from such and such, where I was this leader, and I'm a CVP and an MCC and a WXYZ and a this, and I held this title. And I've seen people do this, and it's not because they want to brag, it's because they don't know what else to say.
They don't know what to say.
And that's been their life, and that's okay. And I've seen coaches do this too. They lead with all their certifications. And once the alphabet soup is over, their time is up, and we don't know what they do, who to refer to them, how to help them. We don't know what they need. We don't even know what their business is. So like I said, if you're thinking, well, I don't know what my business is either, that's okay. There's a woman who you all have met, and her name escapes me right now because of COVID. It's been, 3 years since I've seen her. And she comes out and she says, you know what? I'm an engineer in an all-male world. I come out to network and just to hang out with other smart women. That's it, right?
Very good. That's good.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to. It's not as hard as I think. I think we have this thing where we make things so much harder than they have to be. You know, it doesn't have to be that hard. And I even challenge the use of the word authentic sometimes because it's become a buzzword. Just be real.
Yes,
Just be real. Keep it simple, right? Be real, authentic, real, same thing. But you know, just be real. So keep it about the problem. And if you don't know what problem you solve, just say, hey, still working on it, still figuring it out, right? Nothing wrong with that. You know, if you're divorced or widowed, you don't say, hey, well, I'm this, and you don't make up all these titles. You say, hey, no, I'm just getting back, you know, just getting back out there or something, right? You don't make up well, maybe you do. I don't know. but you get my point, right?
Well, we get the point.
We think it has to be something. So just, if you know what it is, though, if you do know, you make it about the problem you solve in the audience. And the thing that I said before that I want to make sure everybody heard is key is if I'm talking, and I am, to Celeste and Deborah, I'm not just talking to them. I'm sharing with them who I am so that in the right situation, they will be able to share it with others.
Exactly.
That is the key of networking. And then what Deborah touched on is don't lead with your how. Your how shuts people down and gives people a reason to say no and to either block you out or say, I'm not buying. And they don't even know if they need your service yet because they've already decided that there's too many meetings, there's too many calls, there's too many this, I don't want to do that, I'm overwhelmed, I've already got too much on my calendar. And they shut you out before they ever get the opportunity to know you. And you might have the one thing that could change their life.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have about 6 minutes left, Deborah. I'm going to ask this question, and if you would like to answer it or change it, you're more than welcome to. But how do I establish credibility in a room full of strangers?
Well,
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, now we touched on that a little bit about the first 7 seconds. So it's not all about how you're dressed and how your makeup looks, even though we've talked about the importance of that. It's about how you show up. Are you late? Are you looking down at your phone when you come through the room? Do you make eye contact with people? Are you walking confidently into the room, onto the screen, onto the stage? People make that first impression, even though they don't necessarily want to immediately. Tell me the question again.
How do I establish credibility in a room full of
Yes.
strangers?
Right. So it is, again, how you look, your posture. Are you smiling? I happen to have a pretty angry resting face, and I'm really practicing this. So when I'm not talking and these other two women are talking, I don't want to have this big fake smile, but I'm not young, and when my face is resting, my mouth is downturned. But you don't want that to be somebody's first impression of you. So, we used to laugh in college, and we did it. We put Vaseline on our teeth. I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm just saying we put Vaseline on our teeth because it makes you smile, because you can't stand to have it on there.
Okay, we put Vaseline on teeth and on speakers' teeth, so when their mouth gets dry, their lip doesn't stick. It keeps your
Really?
mouth
So
moist.
that is still happening?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Thank you for validating.
Just if someone needs it, like it's not required, but if they're prone to dry mouth or something, yeah. I used to do that when I was performing. You'd put Vaseline on your teeth so that when you're breathing, it wouldn't get dry and stick.
Oh, I just feel so good about myself.
Fascinating conversation turns.
So, Deborah, I've got 3 minutes, but I'm going to give you about 90 seconds to answer this question. Are the guidelines the same for speaking online as they are for speaking in person?
Great question. So yes and no. Your first impression still matters. How you enter the little square in the Zoom room matters. You're not screaming at your kids. You're not still fixing your hair, adjusting your camera, all that stuff. I tell people online, get on early, check your lighting, check your camera, the angle, all that, and then have, your logo or a nice picture of you. Turn your camera off and then go brush your teeth or get your coffee or whatever and come back. So don't be late. Don't be late in person. Don't be late on Zoom. Don't be distracted doing something else. Screaming at your kids, whether it's on the phone, entering the luncheon, or right here, get the pets put up, all of that. Certainly, physically, you need a little more color when you are online, and you need to know what your background is. I mean, I think we're getting better at it because we know these online meetings aren't going away. They're convenient for people, and they're international, and they work for people. But, there's still a lot of people that are struggling with the camera angle, and we're looking at their ceiling fan or looking up their nose, or like Kricket talked about the background. Or what about that Zoom background that if you don't stand perfectly still, it's like a wave that goes in and out? That just makes me nauseous to look at people. So a lot of it is the same. There are some nuances that are different, but it all matters. It all matters. It's still your first impression and how you are memorable in a good way or a bad way to your audience.
Thank you for that, Deborah. In my business consulting business, I have what's called the 3 C's: confidence, control, and consistency. And I would have to say across the board, whether it's in speaking, whether it's in image consulting, your appearance, I think those 3 C's apply to what you all teach and that you're masters of. The confidence, because we do have to have confidence. We do have to control. We control a lot of things about us, where we're at, what we're doing, and then consistency. How do we become a better speaker? We speak more. We practice more. How do we do better with our image? We get out of our comfort zone. You know, we try different things and we do things consistently. You know, we just don't wear something once and say, I don't like it. And then, you know, it takes a while. And I'm a perfect example. I'm very structured. And during the summer, I wore something that I had purchased at Chico's, an outfit, and everybody complimented me on it because I never wore anything like that. But I was so out of my comfort zone. I was like, no, I did not feel I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel nothing that day in that networking event. But you know, the main thing is that, you know, as a whether you're in the corporate business, you're a business entrepreneur, you're looking to start a business, you know, speaking is the fastest path to cash. You definitely need to have a relationship with an expert like Kricket in speaking. There's courses that you can take, short courses, medium-sized courses, and long established courses, right, Kricket?
Absolutely.
And somebody like Deborah, you know, if you're just starting out, and if not, you need to put it in your budget for the end of this year, next year, to have a makeover. We've been in a pandemic, so many of us need a makeover. We haven't maybe bought some clothes, or we need new clothes, or we need a new wardrobe. So, and Deborah has a lot of different courses, whether it's color analysis, makeup, you know, photo opportunities. You know, get with these two ladies. They're phenomenal ladies. And I can't thank each of you enough for joining us today and sharing with the WCEG community about the importance of speaking in your image. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun, actually.
It has been a lot
Lot
of
of
fun. I
fun.
feel like I'm at dinner with you without the food.
I know. And Celeste, just real quick, you touched on something. For anybody right now, if you don't want it right now, you can maybe book with Deborah now and do it in the fall, in the spring, because you get the tax write-off at the end of the year.
Yes, you know, absolutely. Many of y'all need to have that relationship with your accountant, your CPA. You know, you may need to invest some money right now where you get the tax write-off and you can utilize the service next year. Great point, Kricket. I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you so
everybody.
much, ladies, and just have a wonderful and blessed week. And I think, Deborah, I'll see you on Thursday with another talk show. And Kricket, you and I will be in touch. I'll be in Atlanta Thursday.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, WCEG
Thanks, everyone.
community and listeners. We appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.